Hello, Orange Forest Focus as Nottingham Forest face possibly their biggest game since the playoff final when they go to Spurs on Sunday. We'll preview the match in full, reflect on last night's big win in the Europa League, and discuss the latest England scores in the company of, first of all, Michael Temple. Temps, good afternoon. How are you doing?
Feel really good, mate. You?
Yeah, good after last night. Yeah, a great win. Buoyed by it. And I almost said looking forward to this game. I mean, I am terrified by this game, but feeling better about it than I was, certainly. Pete Blackburn, how are you doing?
Yeah, good. Sun shining. Last night was great, and my car had its MOT today, and the bill was about a tenth of what I feared it was going to be. So, yeah, things are well.
You're winning today. Very good, very good. Matt Davies-Adams, how are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm slightly disappointed you put us side by side on the screen because we know the comments that's going to lead to, but we'll deal with it.
The Davis twins.
There you go.
Well,
now you're on top of each other. It's like brothers in a bunk bed.
There we go. Confuse everyone. There we go. Right. Biggest game since when, Pete, actually? Because I say the playoff final. What do you say?
Oh, I wasn't prepared for that. No. That's a great question. Yeah, you might be right. I'm trying to think back to the earlier relegation battles, but it does feel like there's so much more riding on them now at the moment just because of how much we've spent and the sort of expectations and stuff. So I think I'd happily go with you. Although then I am going to probably renege on that later when you start talking to everyone about how it's must win and I disappoint you.
I don't know if it is must win. I don't know. A little bit of it depends, as Paul Morley says, on what happens elsewhere. But a win is massive, certainly. We'll talk more about last night before we get into Spurs. Then, Temps, what did you make of last night in general?
Oh, the game had a few chapters, right? We started off pretty dominant but wasteful. Then there were some individual mistakes. Then there was 50 minutes where our second string looked like a Premier League side at times. They just had so much confidence. They were trying things. They were at times delightfully unstructured and just playing heads-up football, which I really enjoyed. And it was a case of when, not if, we were going to score. Certain players came to the fore. I always celebrate a Ryan Yates performance when it comes out of absolutely nowhere like that. We've still got a challenge with strikers sticking the ball in the back of the net, but we have to celebrate the fact that we've come through a game, taken some minutes away from our more established starters. The second string have stepped up, and now we feel really nicely prepared for the weekend. My concern is all these discussions around momentum and the feeling and the form has been with a bit of a parallel squad. It was the starters that put the shift in last night. And it dropped off, if anything, when the more established players came along. So slightly curious around that. And I was an advocate before the game of resting the best 11 to focus on the league and give that away a little bit last night. However, what happened was they came to the fore. They did us proud. And if we can maintain a European charge whilst protecting our first 11, our Premier League 11, then we've got to celebrate what this squad can do for us at the minute. This game will be reflected upon in the context of what happens on Sunday. But I'm so much happier now. Buoyed was the word you used at the top now than I was 24 hours ago.
You said there, when, not if. I must admit there was a point in the first half where I thought this football club's cursed and it's never going to score another goal in its existence. But we got there. And how big a win is it, do you think, really, Matt? Because I don't know, if we lose on Sunday, people are going to be probably just forgetting Thursday in a sense. But how much do you take from it?
Yeah, I don't want to do that, to be honest. I want us to try as much as we can to view them as two separate entities. I think we should just enjoy last night for what it was, which was like the most joy I've experienced watching Forest this season, I think, and something genuinely positive from this Europa League run that we can take. Like the first game was great, right? But we didn't win it, and Ange was the manager. We've beaten some teams that we should have beaten and did beat comfortably at home. But this was the first kind of real standout result performance, just like the aesthetics of it, that little ground, the Forest fans behind that kind of netting behind it, look real old school European. Yatesy celebrating. I think these are going to become iconic images for Forest potentially if we keep going further in this competition. And like I said, I put a tweet out yesterday saying that I actually wouldn't be that bothered if we got relegated, but we won the Europa League, because the point of this sport is to enjoy it and use it as a distraction from the real world, but also you're sort of supposed to be trying to win things, right, rather than just circling the drain and hoping to finish 17th every season. So I don't see why we don't just really go for this. And the fact that we could put on such a good performance with our reserves looking better than our first team, just like it was real feel good stuff. I felt like it was a real departure from the drudgery that the last few months have been. Total contrast there. I went to the home leg and left feeling pretty deflated about Forest in general. And last night really restored my faith and enjoyment in watching Forest play. I thought it was great. Like what the effect that it has on Sunday's game, we'll talk about. But I don't think we have to contextualize what happened last night with what happens on Sunday. I think we can just treat them as isolated things, and one of them's gone really well. So that's great.
Yeah, and there was contrasting things about it as well, Pete. I mean, the guy who's been here forever in Ryan Yates stepping up and putting a true captain's performance versus some of the lads who've been here for probably 8 pretty tumultuous months or however long it's been, and particularly McAtee and Backwell springs to mind. A big night for those players in different ways, and I mean, they can definitely contribute in the Europa League, and they can, I think, contribute in the Premier League as well now, which hopefully a breakthrough night for some of those lads.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Matt mentioned sort of iconic images that will live on from the night, and it is just a bit of a shame that Yates goal doesn't end up being one of them, because I think that would have been right at the top of the sorts of things that we will be playing for years to come. It was just magnificent. His celebration was perfect. So yeah, a bit gutting that didn't happen, but we can sort of pretend that it did, I suppose, because we did all see it firsthand. But yeah, no, I think you're right. I think I don't want to repeat any of the stuff that the other guys have said. I think in 2 very different ways they've sort of assessed that game and what it meant really, really nicely. The other thing that ties into your question, which always helps with an answer, I guess, is that it felt like a bit of a vindication of Vitor Pereira to me in the way that he'd been managing this side. You know, that was a team full of players who'd been cut adrift, publicly criticised, pretty much shamed, I think, but have since been given a bit of time and space to come back to their best, and an arm around the shoulder and a bit of love, I think. And also, you know, the way we played as well. I mean, there is just so much more fluidity and intent about Forest under Pereira than there ever was under Sean Dyche, or certainly towards the end of the spell. I do feel like he hasn't quite had the results and the goals that he's deserved, and he could probably say that throughout the season with us, I guess. But it did feel like a bit of a vindication of how he's freed people up. You know, there is a fluidity about us. There is a real intent to go out there and press. And even when players are struggling a little bit with confidence or form, you know, they started to show what they could do last night. And I've always stuck by the fact that you shouldn't make any definitive judgment about any of these players during a season when everything is such an absolute mess. We should wait until a time where there's a better spot for that. If they stick at the club, there's more talent than they're showing, and there has to be, and that's clear because there's more talent than everyone is showing, and we know that about the players we've seen before. So it was nice to see some of that, and that does give us a real sort of sense of hope and a bit of boost. And you know, we only need a few players to come and contribute off the bench to start making a real difference to us, because we haven't had that. But I think we've seen that we can do. And McAtee in particular, I think Backwell is getting much better and look lively. So yeah, I think really positive. And like the other guy said, there is a bit of a feel-good factor about it. So I really hope we can take that into Sunday. I think the players will. The scenes at the end, they must have more impact than, you know, the tiredness in the legs. I have to believe that, I think. So I'm sort of looking forward to Sunday now.
Yeah, I saw online, Temps, quite a few people saying he's texting while I'm asking a question. I was just going to plough on. I saw people saying online, West Ham fans, Forest have won. Forest have gone to extra time and they've won. This is the perfect scenario for us. But I don't see it that way. It's not like the main men that you reference have played 120 minutes. So I don't think it makes any negative difference. I think it makes a positive difference going into Sunday that we've come through the tie, doesn't it?
And the only thing it clouds is the tactical deployment, because you were just seeing three at the back work as well as it did. We've seen certain midfield players play as well as they did, but he hadn't picked that team with a view to them playing their way into the thoughts for Sunday. He'd rested the 11, including the minutes shared as they were, to allow both centre halves to start the weekend, both established fullbacks to start the weekend. he's clouded that. It's like an experiment on a back three that's really worked, and now a set of fatigued players, which points possibly towards the restoration of a back four. So, yeah, West Ham fans, you're probably rightly confused, because I think if that had been if this was back-to-back league games and Yates had played like that, and irrespective of the injury, been bombed for the weekend, he'd have had a bit to say about that. The fact we're treating these two twin tracks in isolation with different tactical setups, different sets of players, is a peculiar thing, isn't it? And if, as I think we're all expecting, the 11 rock up on Sunday at Spurs in a familiar shape with familiar personnel, then yeah, the fatigue of the extra time will not impact them in quite the way it would have done the starters. Sorry, man, I was uncharacteristically struggling for words there. I was trying to make a really simple point really badly, but you get my point.
Because you were texting when I was asking you the question at the start. I'm going to blame it on you. Get back to your message. Right, let's just put up the Europa League draw before we talk more about Spurs. This is the pathway then. We're playing Porto in the next round, last 8. If we get through, we play Bologna or Aston Villa. Then on the other side of the draw, it's Braga v Betis, two sides we know well, and then Freiburg v Celta Vigo. I think Celta Vigo knocked out Lyon, who are one of the favourites. So that's how it's shaping up, Matt. You commentate on a fair bit of European football through Chelsea. So how are you seeing that draw from our point of view?
It's quirky, isn't it? Or it says something about the competition that we've already played 3 of the 8 sides who are in it. I feel like it's a good thing that if we play Villa, it'll be over 2 legs rather than 1. I think that would give us more chance to beat them, particularly given their poor home form. If it was the final neutral venue, I think they'd probably be fairly heavy favourites for that. But yeah, Betis are decent, aren't they? Braga, we made them look average when actually I think they're pretty poor. I don't know too much about Bologna, to be honest, but with our English bias, or my English bias, you probably expect Villa to get through that anyway. So it is a lovely draw. I've been never watched a game at the Dragao, but I've been on the stadium tour, and it is a magnificent ground in a brilliant city. So anybody who's going to Ace that is going to have a lovely old time. So this is what we're in it for, right? We took us 30 years to get to Europe. You say you're going to play Porto in the quarterfinals. That's about as much as we could have hoped for at the start of the season, I think. So bring it on.
Are you backing us to get through, Pete, or do you feel like Porto's a bridge too far?
Well, I'm just absolutely vibing after the positives of last night. So I'll just say yes to anything. Whoever we're playing against, we're going through. Feel pretty confident about it. The biggest thing I would say about what Matt said is we have got some serious away trips lined up for anyone going. I mean, Porto will be incredible, amazing city and stadium. Let's have Bologna knocking Villa out for the semis, because trip to Bologna, home of food, yes please. And then after that you've either got a return to Seville, which obviously people would cherish, I think, or you've got the medieval beauty of Freiburg. I've gone a bit Rob Adcock here, haven't I?
Sorry, Pete, there's some good restaurants in Birmingham as well, pal.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah, you could be on is it the Balti Mile or something? They've got an absolute Hagley Road, an absolute stretch of them. So yeah, I probably am less interested in that as a trip, generally speaking. But Birmingham's fine. But no, on the trip generally, I think, look, we've obviously beaten Porto before. I think they're a pretty good side. There's plenty of quality in the side. And when we previewed the game last time, it seems like so long ago now, doesn't it? All those months back, I listed off quite a few of their players who were dangerous. And actually on the day, it really didn't feel like it. It sort of transpired. It was a pretty professional performance on Forest, I thought. I think, am I right in saying that Samu, the striker, was he out for the season, potentially, I think? I remember hearing back a while.
No idea, to be honest.
Hopefully I haven't made... It could have been one of my strange football dreams, but I've got a feeling that I remember him having a really serious injury, which would make a big difference. And yeah, we've done it before, so I don't think there's any reason to be, fearful of Porto. Obviously, there's going to be so much context to what's happened in the league, and it's a long way away in a sense. So hard to know what we'll be feeling like, on the week of the game. But like I say, we've done it before. I think we can play better football now than we did then. So Oh God, yeah, really good point in the comments. Finals in Turkey. That's stupid, isn't it?
I was going to let it go. But
I can't really be the next Rob Adcock, can I? If I'm going to mess stuff up like that.
if you're going to fly to Germany, not Istanbul, yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what. You lot go to Turkey, and I'll have a great time in Freiburg.
Samu has done his ACL. He did it a month ago, which I missed, but that's certainly useful for us. Right, we'll talk Spurs next then, but let's take a quick word for the Trent navigation. I've just clicked the wrong button, and then when I do that, the screen goes tiny, and now I can barely see these lads. But we'll get through it, or I'll get through it. Right.
Can we have a moment of incompetence from Temps and Matt Davies-Adams, please? Because you and I have both.
I've had mine.
Oh, you've done it as well, actually.
Yeah,
yes, good. Come on, Matt. Pressure's on you, pal.
All right, I'll save it. It'll happen when you least expect it, I'm sure.
No, Matt's an actual professional broadcaster, commentator, and podcast guy, so it's not going to happen.
The position we all aspire to.
People are going to be coming in from the school run into my house any minute now, so expect chaos to ensue.
I've got that as well. Hopefully I'll remember to open the back door to let my daughter in. If not, then I'm going to be getting a phone call. Right. Tottenham is up next, 2:15 p.m. kickoff. If you're not down there at the London Stadium, that's not what it's called, the Tottenham Stadium. If you want to go to the wrong ground like Pete, or you can just go and watch it at the Nav. Big screens indoors and out. You can get your roast dinners there as well. So if you want to watch the game in company of Forest fans, do head to the Trent Nav. And thanks as ever to those guys for their support. Right, Spurs. Temps, just elaborate on it more generally. What are you feeling about this game? How nervous are you, and what are you expecting?
Well, they're in a similar position. They've been buoyed by a midweek victory in Europe that bears little resemblance to their league form, and they come into this in exactly the same position as we do, feeling that if they can take 3 points against a relegation-threatened rival, they'll haul themselves out of that picture. And that's how I feel. I think if we beat Spurs, we can stay ahead of them. There's a third horse in the race, of course, but all we can anticipate, all we can prepare for is taking on Spurs at their place. Really hard team to predict, as are we. Team that could click and do really well, as can we. Team that could have a terrible off day and have done quite regularly in recent times, as are we. I just think the parallels are there. Every time I hear a independent commentator say that Spurs are too good to go down, it's music to my ears, because that does create a pressure. I think it's more of a toxic home crowd there when they find themselves under pressure. That is the case at our place. They've had a peculiar couple of years. They've had a revolving door of managers. In amongst that, the Europa League's been a blissful distraction for them too. But I was asked this earlier on, and I do think we are better geared for a scrap than Tottenham Hotspur. I think that Nikola Milenkovic I'd want alongside me in the trenches. 3 or 4 other members of the Forest squad I'd put in that exact same bracket. There aren't too many Spurs players that I'd want alongside me when the chips are down, and that's what I hope is gonna bring it through. Not expecting a classic. I genuinely believe all 3 results are possible, but I have to believe that Forest are better prepared for the mental element, for the scrap of a game of this magnitude at this end of the table than Spurs will ever be.
How do you assess Spurs then, Matt? I mean, they've had a point against Liverpool's virtual B team, certainly their B attack. They beat an Atletico Madrid team with a lot of changes, but they did get the win. We can't sit here and say how great it is we beat Midtjylland and then deride their win. But have they actually turned a corner, or are they just it's a veneer that can crack very quickly?
Oh, the latter, I think. I've been highly amused by watching them trying to spin what's happened over the last couple of weeks. I think that draw at Anfield, much like when we won there, was as much, if not more, about Liverpool's ineptitude than it was about the opposition's brilliance. And yeah, they beat a much changed Atletico Madrid side. They still got knocked out. They've won the fewest points in the Premier League in 2026. They're the only side yet to win a game in it this year. They've gone 12 without a win in the competition. Since the start of last season, they've won 18 of 68 Premier League games. You know, I did a podcast last week looking ahead to the weekend's Premier League action, and one of the questions on it was how many more hours will Igor Tudor be in post for? and he's still there for when they play us. Has he transformed into some sort of genius Tottenham manager that's going to keep Harry Redknapp at bay for a couple of weeks in the last week, or has he beaten a team who weren't particularly interested because they felt they'd already got through and drawn with one who were well below par? I think it's probably the latter, and I know they've got players coming back from injury and suspension, but like Romero and Van der Ven, have you seen them in the last couple of weeks? Man, their heads are on a different planet. They're capable of the most idiotic decisions you'll ever see, and I think that's something that we can prey on. And also a stat that I saw today, which I wasn't aware of, and you can read this two ways. You could say it's because we don't often go in front, but Forest have dropped 6 points from winning positions in the Premier League this season, which is the fewest of any side. So it always felt to me like the first goal in the game on Sunday would be really big because the potential of what it can do to the Spurs crowd if we get it, and the fact that we don't score many. So if they get it, obviously it's big for them. But that tells me that if we go in front, we've got a really good chance of winning the game. So yeah, there's nothing about them that particularly inspires much fear into me. They've won 2 home league games this season. One of those was Burnley on the opening day. Why should we go there thinking that they're going to steamroller us?
Just in terms of team news, Igor Tudor said Solanke is probably fit. Mickey van der Ven's back from suspension. Interestingly, Vicario's left out of the Italy squad, and the manager Gattuso said it's due to an injury issue. And there is some talk he's going to have hernia surgery, but that doesn't mean he's going to miss this game. They could play and then delay it, but unless he can soldier through to the end of the season, that could be a boost for us regardless. So obviously keep an eye on that one. The other aspect of the game, Pete, in terms of the Spurs fans, they've gone from a full-on protest against the board to some kind of massive fan rally where they're going to welcome the team coach, get behind the lads, all that kind of stuff. Same question about a thin veneer. I mean, this feels paper thin to me, but I don't know. Could it be a factor if the crowd are really in their court?
It definitely could be. I mean, I'm slightly concerned that there's a few Spurs fans in the chat, so please don't sort of take anything I say away to your friends and orchestrate some sort of attack on me. But yeah, I think as a layperson who doesn't know an awful lot about them and hasn't been there for the games, you can only really imagine that the pressure there, and what Paul said in the comments about Spurs fans on podcasts talking about this being the biggest game of their lives in the Premier League and that sort of thing. I mean, it does feel like there must be an awful lot of pressure on them, and I would hope that Forest can try and use that, and that should be a message to our players. I think when we've been good recently, we've started games really, really well with high tempo, lots of pressing, and we've upset teams. I think we surprised a few teams. We haven't really got the results out of that, but on quite a few occasions, that's sort of nearly come to fruition, and it feels like that's sort of the game plan to me. If you can get ahead, if you can have some moments where you make things look sticky for those defenders we've talked about and such like, then I find it hard to believe that Spurs crowd isn't one that might start getting pretty edgy and turning for whatever positive intention they have about getting behind the side rather than the protests and those sorts of things. And also, I mean, when Matt Davies-Adams was doing his little speech about stats there, sorry, I didn't mean to say little in a patronising way. When he was doing his speech about stats there, I had a sort of a real sort of rousing sense, and I was just thinking, get Matt Davies-Adams in the Forest dressing room. He can be our sort of Michael Sheen for the Wales national teams, just belting out those stats. They've not won in 86 games, it'd be brilliant. So I reckon that's the combination. Matt Davies-Adams in the dressing room, big intense start, early goal, Spurs fans start kicking off. Beautiful.
You just see Dylan Backwell hanging on my every word as I reel off some XG numbers in the last couple of months. What were you saying, Matt, about them, greeting the coach and big song and dance before the game and everything? They did that before Arsenal, which will be a month to the day when we play them. Do you remember the stadium announcer was giving it all? They don't want this. This is massive for us. We are Spurs. To dare is to do. Rah, rah, rah. And they lost that 4-1 and barely had a look in. So I'm not particularly concerned about that prospect.
Did I say Van der Ven's still suspended? I don't know. He's back. I don't know if I said that, but he was banned for one game. Do you
That was
think...
somebody else in the comments, I think.
Okay. I thought I might have said it wrong. Traditionally, Temps, you want these games to be at home and get your own crowd behind you, but we don't need to say how bad our home form is. We know how bad Spurs' home form is. Is it actually better for us that this is away when you look at how we've played away from home recently?
No, I think irrespective of form, you've always got an advantage at home, and the stats bear that out. There's all kinds of studies, isn't there, into the performance of referees and the way they play to home ground. So I hope it doesn't come to that. But like I just feel that form book out the window, league positions out the window. Can we get 11 players in ship shape to beat their 11 players? Bearing in mind everything that Matt's just reeled off, and the answer is absolutely yes, we can. Need to find the goal from somewhere. Fundamentals of a clean sheet and earning the right to play. But look, it's as simple as that. You're going to ask the must-win question. I know Pete's got something prepared. Look, wouldn't it be nice to win? Forgetting what we must or mustn't do. Of course, nothing's mathematically decided on Sunday, and there's a third horse in this race in West Ham who may come out of the weekend pointless, irrespective of what happens to Forest and Spurs. Nothing's decided. But what a giant leap towards safety this would be. So no, I would rather be at home, but I think we've got every chance of going away and getting the result.
I think, sorry, just to add, I think that potentially the biggest part of that whole sort of must-win chat thing that I won't go into in any great detail is the time until the next game. It's such a long period to sit on it. I just feel like that makes the game feel like one where you really want a performance that you can take something with you, some fighting qualities and that side of things, but also not to lose. And I think if you can get through that period of time, and it can just be a period to really work on what you've got, get some good rest into the players, but also perhaps dial down some of the aspects of the three at the back system, real time, quality time, without the sort of looming threat and the feeling that you didn't turn up on Sunday. I think that could be enormous. It's just such a long time for it to sit with you, and that's my biggest fear, I think.
There's a report in the Daily Mail today as well that Chris Wood could play for the B team against Newcastle, which would be fantastic. So there's this kind of scenario, Matt, where we win in the Europa League, Chris Wood plays, we beat Spurs, 3 weeks to work on everything, and we're feeling pretty good about it all. And there's the other scenario where we lose to Spurs, West Ham win, we're rooted in the bottom three for 3 weeks, and everyone is feeling pretty resigned. It's not so much that it's must win, it's the stakes and the swing either way is as big as it can get. If we lose, we're not dead and buried, but it would feel pretty grim, wouldn't it?
It would for us as supporters, and I think that's where the must-win element. I mean, last night was a must-win game. If we hadn't won that game, we'd have been out of the competition. We've got 8 games of the Premier League season to go, so it's not a must-win game. It's of critical importance because it comes against a team who we're battling against relegation with, so it's an opportunity to take points from them, whilst adding a couple to our total. But I think in terms of the stewing on it for 3 weeks, I think that's much more of a thing for us than it is for players who are, quite capable of compartmentalizing it because they're professionals and they know how it works. And also because half of them are going to be going away with their countries anyway, so their minds will quickly be on something else. So it wouldn't be good for them to get to stew on it for 3 weeks. Don't get me wrong, but I think it's much more of a problem for us as supporters than it is for players or coaching staff.
Where's the game decided, Temps, do you think? What areas of the pitch are you looking at?
Oh, taking of chances, right? Converting. And I think that Igor Jesus is gonna start. And there's a lot riding on his performance. On the flip, what he does, if he can occupy defenders and allow us to nick one from a set piece, or one of our creative central midfielders to smash a worldie, and I include Ryan Yates in that description now, then so be it. But yeah, it's taking of chances. I think they're both going to have the same message about being tight at the back and valuing the clean sheet, and being a little bit protectionist at our end. But the team that scores first here has a huge advantage, obviously, and we'll seek to get ahead and stay ahead. So I think that the stat that matters in this game for me is chance conversion.
Vicario injury update. Shout out for Paul to send this to me. I've just had a quick Google. He is going to have hernia surgery, but he says he will play on Sunday. Then he will have hernia surgery. Obviously, there's the 3 week break, and there's a Spurs statement that says it is hoped he could return to action within the next month. So maybe he only misses one game, maybe he doesn't. I don't know, but if Kinski plays a couple, it might not be a bad thing for us at all. But he is going to play against us, certainly.
And that's a real
very nice, does it? Playing football with a hernia doesn't feel like a very nice thing to do.
No.
That's going to limit him, but also that shows a difference in the man management styles of these two managers who come in late in the season. Whereas Vitor Pereira, you think about the arm round Dylan Backward kind of approach and the way he's worked with the second team in Europe and made people feel important. They're going to have to rely on Kinski. I mean, where's his head at? What happens if he makes a rick in the first game that he's in 10 minutes into it? Does he think, I'm getting dragged in 5 minutes again now? He'll be all over the place, won't he? And a couple more stats to you with Vicario-wise, by the way. Conceded 11 goals from outside the box in the Premier League this season, 4 more than any other goalie. Spurs concede way more goals from open play than most other teams in the league, only Wolves and Burnley more. So, yeah, take loads of shots in terms of where the goals... the game might be decided. I mean, we'll have to take loads of shots anyway to have any chance of scoring with one of them, but you get my point.
No, we do score a lot of really amazing goals. We just don't score a lot of goals. So let's see. We've got form for Anderson and Yates for scoring outside the box. Right, let's do team selection then, how these lads are feeling about it. I can't see the graphic at all. Oh, this is an absolute disaster.
Matt, what?
He's getting out of hand now.
While you're looking, can I answer the question that you gave to Temps, but in a slightly different way? Temps is obviously right. We're totally going to be defined by what happens in front of goal, and we have been pretty significantly so far this season already, which hasn't been great. But I do think that for us, the midfield, that central midfield area is our chance to really make a mark on the game, because when you look at what they've got and what we've got, I think it's the only area where we are just clearly more better stocked. I think, if Anderson, Sangare and Gibbs-White all have good games and can try and exert a bit of domination, then I think there's a real route into the game for us and a real route into causing frustration for the opposition, to trying to dominate a little bit and hopefully creating some moments. And as you say, who would be surprised at all if it comes down to Gibbs-White or Anderson having to smash one in from distance, particularly given how the two teams have lined up so far.
In true middle-aged man clicking lots of buttons in a panic, I've somehow got the big screen back and found the right buttons for putting teams on the screen. So well done to Pete for helping me out there. This team is Matt's team, so we'll go through them one by one. Matt has got Ortega in goal, Ola Aina, Milenkovic, Murillo, Williams in the back four, Anderson and Sangare. Dylan Backward is in his starting 11 with Dan and Doy on one side. Gibbs-White in behind Igor Jesus. And just to say, I think Matt's assuming Callum Hudson-Odoi is injured, because I haven't seen any team news update. Maybe I've got that wrong. But and Jaya Cunha as well, I think, is most likely out as well. Matt, what's your thinking there?
Not totally wedded to a back four, but I prefer a defence that doesn't contain Murato, and so that is one of the reasons why I've gone for a back four. I also think, because it's an away game and you'd expect them to come out quickly, I like the sort of security that having two fullbacks at fullbacks offers. I think Ortega is... I think he's our first choice keeper at the moment. I thought he was really good last night. I don't think he's done anything wrong in order for Sells to displace him. I think that it would be good to give Backward a go from the off. I mean, in no small part, because the guy can take a corner, and that's amazing to watch somebody in a Forest shirt deliver a corner that doesn't hit the first man, go out of play, or get headed away. So that's good. But also, he looked like he had a bit of confidence in him. And I think you say, right, well, give us 45, 60 minutes, and then let's bring on Amari, who always looks better against the tired defence, in his place. I am assuming that Callum's injured, and I think Ndoye has been all right in recent weeks. I think he was really good against Fulham, and he looks more like he's got a goal in him than the rest of our wingers. Rest of it kind of picks itself. I do feel like, I'm not a big fake guy, but it does sort of feel written in the stars, doesn't it, that Morgan's going to do something against Spurs at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, given everything that went on there in the summer. So, yeah, that's kind of my thinking.
Let's go straight into Temps's team then. He's got Sells in goal. There's a bonus pod tomorrow with Mark Crossley where he says who he would pick in goal, but so these lads are disagreeing. So check out that Crossley one, see what he says. Sells in goal, Aina, Milenkovic, Murillo, Williams in a back four, Anderson and Sangare in midfield again, Amari Hutchinson on the right, Hudson-Odoi on the left if fit, Gibbs-White in behind Igor Jesus. So explain your thinking, Temps. But also, let's assuming Hudson-Odoi is out, who is the other winger for you?
Look, as regards the shape, I think if we had a stockpile of centre halves, then Pereira would be wanting to play the back three as we saw last night. But with the available personnel and the need, I think, to get your best available players on the pitch, these four start, and that necessitates a flat back four for me. Look, I'm not surprised that the contention is out wide. You can make a case for and against those four. Bakwa started badly last night, but grew into the game. His set piece delivery was excellent. Amari Hutchinson was lively. He was hungry for the ball, made a lot of impact. Dan Ndoye was breezing past his fullback, but we have these debates around the quality of his delivery into the box. So if Hudson Ndoye is out, I would pick Ndoye over Bakwa just because of the sight test. What I've seen him deliver in the Premier League, where Bakwa has been found wanting. Although he did impress me. He did impress me last night. Our stockpile of quality is central midfield, and these three are the cream of the crop. I think as individuals in the collective, there's far more to come from them. They are genuinely capable of being a top 8 Premier League midfield three. We haven't seen that form in recent weeks. And Igor Jesus in there because I think he's got a better chance of converting chances than Lorenzo Luca. I'm a big Matt Sells fan. I think I agree with Matt. The Moreno has been really good for us. His distribution was a little bit nerve-wracking at times last night. Held onto the ball half a second too long on a couple of occasions. I just think Matt Sells he's steady Eddie, but he's got the big save in him as well, and that's why he gets the nod for me.
Let's go on to the other team then. This is my team, and I think it's Pete's team as well, but we'll talk around this and we'll talk around some of the names that we haven't mentioned between us all in general. I've got Ortega in goal. I'm more wedded to this back three because I think we look better with it. So I'm really pushing this Olorina as a right centre-back thing. So Aina right centre-back, Milenkovic and Murillo, Williams and Ndoye as wing-backs, and then Anderson and Sangare, Gibbs-White. I've got Hutchinson in there as a 10. And then Igor Jesus up front. I've got a few thoughts on it, Pete, but what's your thinking if that's your team?
Yeah, I mean, I sort of got away with not submitting a team because I wasn't really sure what to do. And you sent me yours, and I thought, yeah, that's basically the same as one of the 100 different team sheets that I put together that morning. So I'm happy to go with it. I am generally much more disposed to playing this system. I think it's clearly sort of Pereira's sweet spot in terms of the system that he can coach that I think gives you the most sort of the manager's expertise out on the pitch. I think he's got it nailed down, and because it's quite the way he plays the system can be quite fluid with the wide centre halves can get heavily involved further at the pitch. Often the wing backs, at least on one side, are basically just very high wingers and potentially even the furthest person forward a lot of the time, which is beneficial for Ndoye if we can pull that off. But generally speaking, I just think we look at more secure, but also that we get bodies in the places that we really need them. So we tend to get players closer to the striker in this system. It also gives us more of an overload in midfield. And I think the key problem we often have with the 4-2-3-1 is that we just get overrun and suddenly you'll find players drifting past Sangare and Anderson into danger zones. And generally speaking, I think we've looked better under Pereira when we played more of a 4-3-3 with Anderson and Gibbs-White sort of roaming in the middle, or when we played this system. So that's sort of what I would do. And the next point I was going to make, Paul's just made in the comments as well, but you can very, very easily turn this 11 straight into a 4-3-3 or a 4-2-3-1 just by dropping Nico Williams into a back four, and then you've got so much flexibility there. I like lots of things about it. I think one of the things that we've missed in recent weeks and probably months actually is having a crossing option that has been a quick crossing option. So Nico Williams gives us that. Otherwise, all of our players just want to hold on to the ball and sort of craft something. And I think if we're going to have that as an option, that could make quite a big difference to us as well. So there's so much I like about it. I think Ndoye could be quite key for us. I don't think he's in our best 11 players, but we desperately need someone who can run in behind as well. And in Pereira's system, he'll be allowed to do that. Someone who can stretch the play a little bit and make Jesus more of an effective threat by doing that. So yeah, those are some of my basic thoughts on it. I mean, at the end of the last Premier League game, I would have said Taiwo has to start the next one because Jesus just looked so shattered. But he obviously didn't play at all in the week, and you'd imagine that the hope there is that he can start. And the other thing on the goalkeeper, I think it's a really tough choice. I suspect that Pereira might go for Sells because it feels like the sort of safest option in a sense that, you know, then those players know each other the best. You're probably not upsetting anyone, but I think Ortega's probably a better all-round keeper. And plus, given how difficult we find it to grade, I think him having the ability to play those line-breaking passes into midfield makes such a difference for how quickly we can set up an attack. So yeah, lots of rambling thoughts there. I'm not really sure what the lineup should be, but yeah, that's where I'm at with it.
My quick thoughts on it. Yes, I do keep saying Murillo wrong. Someone's pointed out, but it's rooted in my head now to say Murillo too quickly. But yeah, I'll do my best to say it right. I think Spurs seem wedded to a back three with Tudor, so I don't mind matching them up. Dan and Doy I don't mind as a wing back. I think he can keep Pedro Porro honest and keep him fairly pinned back and offer a threat. So that was really my thinking. The big point I was going to make, more than any game this season, perhaps, I don't know if formation massively matters versus just mentality and confidence and belief and just playing under pressure. I feel like just the mental aspect of this game is much bigger than necessarily the formation and how we line up. Obviously, it's a factor and a big factor, but that was my key point from it. On the strikers, Matt, I mean, I was of the same opinion of Pete. I had Taiwo in my team all the way along, but Jesus has had a rest. Feel like 60 minutes of Jesus, 30 minutes of Taiwo when he's roughed up might be a better way to go. How close would you be to putting Taiwo in your team?
Not very, to be honest. I think that Jesus is much more likely to give Romero in particular a difficult afternoon than Taiwo is. I think Taiwo is a kind of striker that Romero probably quite likes facing, and obviously Van der Ven's not going to have any issues up against him pace-wise. I think the trickery of Jesus is probably what's called for here, and you know, he did score away from home in London, didn't he? You know, at Brentford, that amazing goal that he got. I know Taiwo scored in that game too, but I think we're all still just living off the Taiwo of when we first came up than what is the actual reality of the situation, which is probably what we saw with that chance against Fulham last week. I know Jesus has got a poor goal scoring record in the Premier League, but you know, if you gave him and Taiwo the same chance, I'm backing Jesus to take it more than I am Taiwo. So that's why I'd be starting with him.
Jesus is, Jesus is definitely the sort of better player on any evidence that we've got, you know, in the last year or whatever. I think the reason why I thought it was a debate of some sort was that it was quite a different looking Jesus last time out, and I get that presumably confidence is pretty low anyway, understandably, but also he just looked absolutely knackered. And I think, Matt, was it you who did some digging on how much football he played, and it is properly extraordinary. I mean, it's
2.5 years without a break, basically, or something like that.
Yeah, I think he's arguably been more under the pump than Elliot Anderson has, and that's pretty outrageous as well. So there was a part of me that was just wondering whether he'd sort of hit a wall at that point, but the fact that he didn't play at all in the week makes me think that they feel like he's gonna be okay to have a go. So that's why I went that way. Can I ask everybody one question? When we've been talking about all these different teams, I actually am starting to feel increasingly sort of outraged and worried about Dominguez not being in the lineup. Feels like he's given us so much recently with his intensity, obviously the goals as well, but with the way that he sort of sets the tone for us, I think. I mean, is anybody considering that or not?
Not massively. I mean, he did really well at City. I just think I'd quite prefer the attacking option. We don't score enough goals. Also, in part of my head was Hutchinson came off early in that game, which makes me think he's going to play. So that's partly it. But I feel like, as Matt said, the first goal is so important that I personally prefer the extra attacking player in this one, because Spurs are so vulnerable. Like, was it Matt who said about the XG from the edge of the box and all those things? Let's play the extra attacker and take it to them. And Hutchinson might have a goal in from the edge of the box. Anderson might. Just things like that tips the thoughts for me. What about you, Temps?
I really like Andrew's assessment in the comments. Spurs can't defend and we can't score should be a classic. None of us really concerned about the quality of this game. It's all about the outcome. Yeah, look, Dominguez, unsung hero of this squad. any occasion, any situation. Playing wide as a defensive winger, let him play in his preferred position. He'll give you everything. He breaks up the play. I think his involvement in that goal against Eddie Anderson's goal against Man City was which one was it? The build-up play on the edge of the box, the transition wide. Yeah, look, he's an underrated footballer. There's no general Premier League fan who's talking about Nicolas Dominguez, but having watched him week in, week out, even in a struggling side, I think we all appreciate what he is. So yeah, no one on this panel will lose any sleep if we see him get the start of the weekend.
It depends where you use him as well, Matt, doesn't it? Like, he played against Fulham as a most advanced midfielder, and I don't think that's his role. But if he's in a 4-3-3 in the mix and doing what he did against Man City, then obviously, yeah, he's a top player. It's just how Pereira utilises him, I guess, is it?
Yeah, he's a victim of circumstance in a way, isn't he? Because sometimes your heart sinks when you see the team and him in it as a winger, and you think, oh, we should be attacking more in this game. So maybe that's part of the reason as well. He also looked like he left everything out on the pitch last night, so that maybe comes into thinking as well. And just to say to Danscape, yes, I've been told that I bring Louis Theroux vibes before, and I am infiltrating this podcast to do my own documentary on toxic masculinity, which you three totally embody.
I don't think any of us are in the manosphere, are we?
I was going to say, this is not exactly a bastion of toxic masculinity on here right now, is it? A couple of other players just to mention quickly. I mean, McAtee and Yates, we've said how well they did, Pete. I don't think Yates can play just because he looked absolutely done at the end of that game, but would either of them be pushing for significant minutes, if not starts, in this game for you?
I don't see how Yates can, because of the efforts he put in, also potentially an injury as well, which, I mean, I'm not sure what happened with him and what the state of that is, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's got a bit of lingering, something that needs a bit of time. And also, it's our strongest area of the pitch, isn't it? And it is very hard to... I mean, Dominguez is the same question in a sense. Like, Dominguez's best position is probably as an 8, but how's he getting in the side with Anderson there, with Gibbs-White there, and Sangare other option? I don't really. I mean, I'm not sure what performances you could put into to break past those at the moment. It's just not. It's not going to be the case for Yates, I don't think. So yeah, I mean, if he was fit, it would be a shame. But I think he is still very useful to us. In various roles coming off the bench if he's able to. McAtee, I feel a bit bad for, and the one thing that makes me feel a bit better is that the system that we started playing, and if we do stick with it, is perfect for him. And you saw that last night. I think it's exactly where you want him, is in those pockets and able to find a little bit of space, drift between the lines, and try and create something. And I imagine you guys talked about on the post-match at length last night. I haven't had time to listen to it yet, but I mean, his vision is extraordinary, and the fact that he can see that ball behind the defence but also play it and with his weaker foot is pretty special. So it does feel to me like there is genuine opportunity now with the way that he's being managed, and Pereira's obviously spoken about his ability. There's genuine opportunity for him to come and have an impact, but it doesn't have to be starting games. It can also be coming off the bench. And also, I guess there are probably games coming up where we might be facing a team that are just going to sit in there and try and frustrate us. And maybe he's the answer to those sorts of problems. And you can play him and Gibbs-White as twin tens, perhaps, or some other sort of structure. And I really do think that there's still time for some of these players, McAtee certainly, hopefully Bakwa, to have a genuine impact for the first time in the league this season. So I'm really hopeful of that, and it's got to be a good thing, hasn't it? Because how often do you look at the bench and just think, well, what on earth are you supposed to do, really? Or you're bringing on somebody who's sort of much of a muchness at best.
Yeah, I think so. With McAtee as well, I like having that extra player who can run in and stretch Tottenham, because like Pete says, they're not going to sit back. Burnley are going to sit back. And I think Dan said last night, maybe Burnley are the team to do that. Paul Taylor is saying that Chris Wood's going to play perhaps half a game against Loughborough. Against Newcastle at Loughborough. Are you all on the Chris Wood's going to save us train, Matt? Or is that a bit too early for that?
I'd very much like to be, but he hasn't played for quite a long time, and he's 34 years of age. So I think it goes one of two ways. One, he either comes back, hits the ground running, scores the goals we need him to keep us up, or 2, he pulls his hamstring tonight and then that's it. And we might see him again for the last game of the season so he can make the New Zealand World Cup squad. But I don't want to put too much stock in it. But it's a nice little ace to have up the sleeve, potentially, isn't it? As long as we're not completely burdening him with expectation and it's him or nobody.
Last topic to discuss then before we go in the last 5-10 minutes or so. The England squad's been announced. Elliot Anderson is in it, of course, as he would be. I thought Morgan Gibbs-White would be in it, to be honest, but he's not. Jason Steele's in it. If Morgan can play in goal, he might have as much chance as Steele, because I didn't see that one coming. What were you surprised, Temps, or not really, that Morgan's missed out?
No, it follows what we've seen in terms of form, doesn't it? When Morgan was in the England squad, in the England side, he deserved to be. His form was exceptional at that point of time. And he's one of the finest in his position. However, you look at the state of play now. Jude Bellingham's back fit. Cole Palmer's rediscovered his form. Morgan Rogers is amongst the best 10s in the Premier League. It's tricky company to get into, and the manner in which England play, they carry a high number of wide players. They have some backups, Harry Kane. And for whatever reason, he wants to squeeze 12 goalkeepers in there at this moment as well. So, no, I'm not surprised. I don't think Morgan can have any complaints. He earned his position in that squad for exceptional form. It's been patchy at times this season, where Elliot's been far more consistent and will start games in the World Cup. So I'm not surprised. I think he will get more England caps, but he needs more consistent club performances. And how many times have we said, when we play well, when Morgan plays well, we play well? He hasn't quite hit the consistency of last season. However, you have to say his goal scoring has improved dramatically, and he's been a mainstay of our scoring charts throughout. But no surprises for me, and it's his selection is totally in line with his fluctuations in form at our club.
I guess when you look at the squad, Matt, it's Morgan or Foden or Eze, I guess. I don't know. I mean, if it's done on current form, Phil Foden shouldn't be in it, should he? But he is. But then I guess he's an elite player. Do you think deep down Tuchel just doesn't rate Morgan enough, or not?
Yeah, quite possibly. I mean, I wasn't that down on it until I saw the Tuchel quote saying it's the last opportunity for players to compete for their ticket, because I was kind of looking at it through the, watching Cole Palmer, as I do every week. The discussion that we've been having at Chelsea is whether he gets in the squad for the World Cup, because at the minute I disagree with Temps and say that his form is just not. His numbers are all right, but the influence that he's having on games is just nowhere near what it was last season. And actually, he still looks like he's a long way from proper fitness to me. So I kind of saw his selection in this as his opportunity to prove to Tuchel that he can get back to the player that he's been for the last couple of seasons, because he just hasn't been that on a consistent basis. And that's where I think the door might open for Morgan. I do think Foden and Eze, it's a shame from Morgan's point of view that Eze's getting more minutes now and making good use of them. I think that's probably what bumps him down the queue a bit, but he's going to be one of the first reserves, right? And at least one player is going to miss out through injury somewhere in the England squad, and that might open up the door for him to come back in. So I certainly wouldn't be writing it off from his perspective, but it's good news for us that he's not in it. And it's also good news that Elliot Anderson's one of these, 11 players who aren't joining up until after the first game against Uruguay on Friday next week. So presumably he's either getting a few days off or he's staying at Forest and getting to do some work with Vitor Pereira, which is going to be really beneficial for us. So yeah, not the end for Morgan. Elliot's nailed on, injury aside. But yeah, it is a bit mad. I mean, they're taking Steele he wants to take him to the World Cup as a training goalkeeper, doesn't he? I think that's why he's in. But some of the picks are a bit random. Like Calvert-Lewin hasn't scored in ages, has he? So why you'd have him over Ollie Watkins, I'm not sure. But yeah, Morgan just got to bide his time and probably hope for an injury now, I think.
Good to see James Garner in there as well. He's played really well this season, especially the last 3 or 4 months. He's been brilliant. Lastly, Pete, from a Forest point of view, I guess with Morgan, I mean, it could go either way. He could be ultra determined to show Tuchel he's made a mistake and be that first reserve that Matt mentions, or he could, after his summer transfer failed, he had a couple of rough months there, so he could go under a bit here. But what are you? Obviously, I know what you're hoping for, but what do you think might happen with this?
I think it's just a case of answering the question in the way that you hope it transpires, really, isn't it? None of us have any access to it insight that would give us a great sense of it. I think with Morgan, we've seen before both sides of the picture. Like you said, he started the season off in a real sort of space of struggle, I think. And whether or not that is simply down to how things transpired in the summer, I suspect we'll probably never really know. But it may have done, and there's obviously a correlation there that makes you think that. But we have also seen Morgan be a player who really seems to thrive in the sort of the moments where things are a little bit edgy, or there's a bit of a narrative there. I mean, I will always go back to seeing him look up at that Forza display and the sense that he was just going to take the game by the scruff of the neck, which he absolutely did. I think personally, I've been really pleased with his form recently. I feel like he's giving everything to try and stop this season ending in perceived disaster, personally. So I'd be hopeful that it's just something else that can spur him on. And that's all we can be, really, is hopeful. Obviously, it's up to him. But like I say, we have seen times where he does step up in those moments, and hopefully that's the case again.
Right, we shall leave it there. Final thoughts in 1 second. But if you've enjoyed this, do us a favour, hit like, hit subscribe, do consider membership or Patreon, all that lovely 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. Back tomorrow, as mentioned, there'll be that bonus Mark Crossley podcast that's about 20 minutes long, and then a longer than normal opposition preview with Baker, where we go in more details about Spurs tactically, Tudor, the fans, and all that kind of stuff, and how he's feeling to get the flip side of the coin on this game. Temps, any final words, anything you want to add before we go?
No, just positivity. What a week it would be if we followed up Thursday with a win on Sunday. I think it just settle so many nerves, restore so much confidence, and set us up for the run-in a really positive fashion. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to the game on Sunday. I think we've got every chance of getting a result. It's not must win, but it's would really like to win. And let's hope we're celebrating come Monday morning.
Yeah, it's always the hope, isn't it? It's always the hope. Matt, anything from you before we go?
No, just really hope we win on Sunday, not least because you've got 3 weeks worth of material to try and spin out of one game. And if that's a defeat, I feel for you.
Yeah, no, even a win's going to be tricky, but I'll do my best. Pete, anything from you before we go?
Well, yeah, you've promised that we're going to be over soon, but I've got 3 bits of any other business, so I can't. I'm not sure if we can really make
them. Does anyone need to go? By the way, we're hitting an hour.
I'll make it quick. The first one is your fault though, so you can't blame me. Your apparent hatred of charity and refusal to support your own members. I've got to mention a fundraiser that one of the listeners and vital cog of our lovely Discord community, Sam Fuller, is doing, or has done actually, because Matt was so poor at getting the charitable effort out there before he actually did it. Sam ran the Colchester half marathon a few weeks ago. He's raising money for standing together against domestic abuse. He didn't get a shout out before it, but I think he should have one now. His Just Giving page is still open, and hopefully through Matt's hatred for charity, he can see fit to put a link in the show description. But I guess needless to say, it's a brilliant, important cause. And also, Sam explicitly urged me to absolutely, definitely not mention that he knocked 8 minutes off his PB. So well done to him. Number 2, just wanted to shout out quickly for Connor from the Lyric Pub in Soho for his recent hospitality and welcome. He's apparently a regular listener and says that he listens doing the cellar chores every day. So I guess maybe my long rants are helpful for something, because that probably takes ages, because they've got about 15 taps in there. And then last thing quickly. Published a new piece on my Substack today. It's a tale of 2 midfielders, and it's sort of love letters to Ryan Yates and Elliot Anderson. So petermichaelblackburn.substack.com. Thanks.
Good. Yeah, I'll get hold of that link off Sam. I should have done it.
If you can be bothered to look for it, mate. Yeah, I mean, he's probably sent it to you, and it's in the Discord, and I've probably given it to you as well. But
it's in the Discord. It's in the Discord. If you remember, you'll get Discord. You can join us for that. So I can.
Don't use this as a moment to sell your own wares. This is about charity.
Says the guy who just plugged his own Substack. So
yeah, but I've done the charity bit.
Yeah, that's true.
Come on, mate.
Right. Thanks for everyone's company. Thanks to these lads. Really appreciate it. Do hit like before you go. And if we don't see you tomorrow, we shall see you soon.